There's a silent habit that destroys more lives than many realize. It steals not only money, opportunities, or time, but something even more precious: inner peace. This habit has a name, and most have felt its weight at some point: anxiety. Few things are so capable of sapping strength, eroding joy, and taking away day after day the shine of moments that should be lived with lightness. How many people have lost sleep because their minds insisted on creating tragedies that would never happen? How many arguments were born from unfounded stress? How many relationships have deteriorated because someone couldn't control their whirlwind of thoughts? Anxiety takes its toll. It robs us of rest, steals our concentration, pushes away loved ones, and leaves us trapped in scenarios concocted by our imagination. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic thinkers, warned about this centuries ago. He who suffers before his time suffers more than necessary. And that's exactly what anxiety does. It multiplies suffering that never even existed, turns the fear of tomorrow into a thief of the present, and fuels storms that only live within the mind. But the Stoics did not bow before this invisible enemy. They developed practices and teachings to deal with life without being overcome by the anguish of what has not yet happened. They knew that by disciplining one's thoughts, one can regain calm, live in the present with greater focus, and achieve an inner freedom that nothing external can destroy. That's what this video was created for, to show you how to apply these ancient lessons to the modern world. You'll learn practical, simple, and profound principles that can transform the way you manage your thoughts. If you practice, you'll realize that it's possible to live with greater lightness, clarity, and tranquility, even amidst difficulties. So, if you feel like your mind sometimes becomes a prison, this content is for you. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with anyone who also struggles with this silent battle. Because living in peace isn't just a distant dream, it's a real choice, and that choice can start today. 1. Face your fear head-on until it subsides. Anxiety almost never stems from actual pain. It stems from the fear of feeling pain, the dread of leaving a familiar place, imagining the fall before even attempting to climb, the prospect of losing what you've achieved without even enjoying what you already have. Seneca knew this all too well. Even though he was one of the richest men in Rome, he did something many would consider crazy. He wore old clothes, ate stale bread, slept on the cold ground, and spent days living as if he had nothing. Why? Because he discovered a truth few dare face. The mind doesn't grow by hiding, but by exposing itself. When you allow yourself to purposefully face what you fear most, something inside you changes. You understand that what seemed impossible to bear was just a magnified image created by your own mind. Seneca wrote, "Was this what you were so afraid of?" This was the question he asked himself after facing what he avoided. And almost always the answer was, no, it wasn't that horrible. There's also a Zen story that says, "This cup is already broken." The master didn't say this out of sadness, but out of clarity. He knew that everything is temporary. And by accepting this, he lived with more calm, more attention, and more freedom. Are you afraid of losing your job? Try living for a month on the bare minimum and discover your creativity. Are you afraid of being alone? Spend a weekend with just yourself, without distractions, and listen to what your soul has to say. Are you afraid of failure? Try something new and allow yourself to make mistakes in public, just to realize that the world goes on. When you face the losses that only existed in your imagination, they stop paralyzing you. You stop wasting your life trying to protect everything and finally begin to live. Many think that success will bring peace, but the truth is that many people full of achievements are trapped by the fear of losing what they have. As Seneca said, "Slavery also exists beneath marble and gold. Appearance reveals nothing, for behind a perfect life may lie a tired, frightened, and anxious mind." But there is another path, one that relies not on stability but on courage. It is the path of those who prepare for loss, not to accept it as fate, but to avoid being destroyed by it. Because when you understand that you can lose everything and still remain whole, you become free. Free from fear, free from anxiety, free from the illusion that you need to control the world to find peace. And at that point, a new strength is born. The strength of those who can start over as many times as necessary without ever losing themselves along the way. 2. Stop telling yourself stories that diminish you. Epictetus said, "It is not things that hurt us, but our opinion of them." This is one of the greatest keys to inner freedom. What people said, did, or what happened, these are all neutral, just facts. But it's the story you create about those facts that determines how you'll feel. You weren't just ignored. You told yourself it was offensive. You didn't make a mistake. You concluded that this proves you're incapable. You didn't miss an opportunity. You believed you'd never get another chance. And that's how we start living more in our minds than in reality. That's how we sabotage ourselves without realizing it. But you can change that. You can stop, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, what story am I telling myself right now? Is it helping me or destroying me? Don't deny what happened, but don't create unnecessary pain either. Don't carry interpretations that crush you when you could simply accept, learn, and move on. You have the power to transform what seems like failure into learning, criticism into reflection, and ending into a new beginning. The mind is like an internal narrator, and you can choose the tone of voice that guides your thoughts. When you change the story you tell yourself, you don't just change the way you see the world, you change the way you live, and with that, everything can change. 3. Ask for help. This is also a sign of strength. Anxiety has a hidden trick. It tries to convince you that everything you're feeling is completely logical, that there's no way out, and that you can't change it. But often when you put it into words and tell someone, you realize that the anguish wasn't as solid as it seemed. The thoughts that torment us when we're alone take on a different meaning when spoken out loud. They stop sounding like scary monsters and become human emotions that can be understood and cared for. There's a common misconception about Stoicism. Many people think the Stoics didn't feel pain, that they were cold, hard, and emotionless, but that's not true. They learned to seek wisdom, even from others. Marcus Aurelius wrote for himself as if he were his own guide. Seneca exchanged letters with close friends. Epictetus taught within the community. And everyone knew, no one faces life's pains completely alone. If you're struggling with anxiety, sadness, sleepless nights, or incessant thoughts, ask for help. Talk to a friend or someone you trust, not because you're weak, but because you deserve clarity, because you deserve to live in peace. 4. Let go of what will never be in your control. How many times have you lost your temper trying to hold on to something that doesn't depend on you? It's as if your mind is setting up a war zone against your own life, trying to guess, hold on, and control everything. But the mind doesn't realize it's like trying to fight the wind. You can't control what others think. You can't control what might go wrong. You can't control accidents, judgments, or what will happen in the future. And the more you insist, the more tired and frustrated you become. About 2,000 years ago, Marcus Aurelius, the strongest man in the Roman Empire, already wrote this in his thoughts. "I had a good day because I let go of anxiety." And he soon corrected himself. "Actually, I didn't run away from it. I simply let go because it was inside me." This is the turning point, because it shows that the real struggle with anxiety isn't in the world, but within us. It's not what happens outside that creates the turmoil. It's our own thoughts trying to hold on to what can't be held. You don't need to run from anxiety, but rather notice when it arises from the desire to control something that doesn't depend on you. And in that moment, take a deep breath and let go. Let go of what's beyond your control, because the mind calms down when it understands how far it can go. So whenever your chest feels tight, repeat to yourself, "This isn't up to me, so I'll let go." This is the first step to bringing peace back. 5. Don't suffer for things that only exist in your mind. Life is complicated enough. Don't make it heavier by carrying pain that hasn't even arrived yet. Seneca said, "He who suffers before his time suffers more than he need." And that's exactly what anxiety does. It takes you to futures that may never exist and makes you feel pain before anything actually happens. Suffering in anticipation doesn't prepare anyone. It only creates pointless emotional punishment. It's living in an imaginary war where you always come out hurt, even if there's no battle. You can and should have a plan. Think through potential problems like a Stoic, but with clarity, without despair. Act with intelligence, not fear. There's a huge difference between being prepared and being terrified of something that may never happen. You're living now, and the now requires your full attention. So the next time anxiety creeps in, ask yourself, is this happening now, or just in my head? If the answer is not yet, take a deep breath and let go. Don't take on suffering that hasn't yet arrived. Live in the present with ease. When what truly needs to happen arrives, you'll have the strength to face it. 6. Make acceptance a daily habit and put your mind at ease. Epictetus said, "If you do not desire what is beyond your power, you will have no reason to worry." It may sound too easy, but it's one of the most powerful ideas ever written. Anxiety almost never stems from what's happening now. It arises from disappointment with what you wanted to happen and didn't, from fear of what might happen but hasn't yet. It's like a struggle between what's real and the script you've created in your head. The problem isn't a late meeting, an unanswered message, or suddenly changed plans. The problem lies in the rigid certainty that everything must go exactly as you imagined. And when the world doesn't follow your script, you lose it. Think of someone waiting for a test result. The mind races. What if it's something serious? What if my life turns upside down? But until that moment, nothing has actually happened. Suffering is still just an idea. Faz's worried mother revisits her choices 1,000 times, trying to protect her children from things she can't foresee. An anxious student endlessly wonders whether they did well or poorly on a test before even knowing their score. A distressed entrepreneur tries to predict every market move, as if the world obeyed their calculations. But life doesn't follow orders. It's alive, full of surprises, twists and turns. The more you try to hold everything together, the more you wear yourself out. That's where acceptance appears, not as weakness but as a liberating force. Acceptance isn't surrender, it's maturity. It's like taking a deep breath in the middle of a storm and saying, "I'll do what I can. I'll let go of the rest." Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you can let go of the images that clutter your mind, the fears about the future and the pains of the past, you can find within yourself a perfect, silent, and peaceful space." We don't always reach this place, but the more we practice letting go of what is not in our control, the closer we get. On days when I can accept it, without resistance or demanding that everything be my way, I feel lighter, clearer, and more present. And the more I practice this letting go, the more I realize anxiety is not proof of weakness, but a call to growth. You don't have to eliminate anxiety to live well. You have to learn to live with it without letting it take control. Acceptance isn't about settling for something that hurts you. It's about stopping fighting what can't be changed. And when you stop fighting reality, reality finally stops hurting you. 7. Walk until your mind finds calm. There is an old Latin phrase that says, "Walking, everything is resolved." It's something direct, powerful, and often forgotten. The anxious mind wants to solve everything at once. It rushes, stumbles, repeats the same thought over and over, as if trapped in a maze. But the body holds an ancient wisdom that the mind has forgotten. Clarity isn't born from pressure, but from movement. Feeling too heavy? Go for a walk. Can't decide what to do? Walk. Had a fight with someone you love? Invite them to walk with you. The simple act of walking can change the mood of a conversation, the direction of a thought, and even the intensity of an emotion. The body craves movement because if it stays still, it eventually breaks. And this is true because when the body moves, the soul breathes. And when the soul breathes, anxiety loses its power. Walking is more than exercise. It's like a ritual of reconnection. It's about leaving a place of tension and entering a state of flow where thoughts slow down, the heart calms, and the world seems less heavy. Think of the ancient philosophers who taught while walking, the monks who meditated while walking, the great artists and leaders who made decisions in gardens, trails, and roads. They understood that the answer comes not from thinking more, but from moving with presence. Imagine your thoughts are like a glass of dirty water. The more you stir it, the cloudier it becomes. But when you walk, it's like letting the glass sit still, and little by little the dirt falls away and the water becomes clear again. So the next time you feel anxiety gripping you, do the opposite. Move. Don't try to solve everything right away. Get up, take a deep breath, and take just one step. Then another, and perhaps along with them will come the clarity, lightness, and peace your mind so desperately seeks. Because sometimes the path isn't in your head, the path is in your feet. 8. Letting go of control means stopping fighting. It means stopping hurting yourself. How many times did something really shake you up, and then, after a few months, you realized it wasn't that big of a deal? You survived, learned, and even managed to laugh about it. Maybe it even became a story you tell with relief today. The problem is that in the moment it happens, everything seems immense. The pain, the frustration, the shame. Your mind starts spinning in circles, and you end up suffering twice from what happened and from what you're creating inside your head about it. Marcus Aurelius said, "You don't have to let it bother you. You can simply let it be." This phrase holds one of the greatest keys to emotional freedom. It doesn't mean ignoring what you feel, but rather not increasing what already hurts. It means not turning discomfort into a mental prison. Yes, it happened. Yes, it was hard. But you don't have to carry it like an eternal burden. Feel what you need to feel and then let it go. Don't fight the current. Often, true strength lies in not reacting, in not giving the problem more power than it already has, in moving forward without taking with it what can and should be left behind. Because one day you'll look back and realize that this fall brought maturity, that this loss brought clarity, and that it was exactly what helped shape who you are. It's what brought you here. 9. Keep something close to you that reminds you of who you are. Marcus Aurelius said, "It's not what happens that causes anxiety, it's what you think about what happens. And if you're the one creating the anxiety, you're also the one who can let it go." Stoicism isn't a magic formula that turns you to stone. It's a set of tools, an internal guide, a constant reminder that you have more strength than you realize. And sometimes that's what you need, a simple, concrete, and ever-present reminder. Something that pulls you back to what matters, something that reminds you that you can still choose how you think, how you react, and how you move forward. Every time anxiety creeps in, stop for a moment and ask clearly, does this depend on me? If it doesn't, let it go. If it does, act, but act calmly, not desperately. Things will go wrong. People will disappoint, criticize, or ignore you. Plans will fail. Doors will close. Life is unpredictable and often harsh. But the Stoics said, nothing can truly hurt you unless it makes you worse. You are only truly hurt when you react to the world with its worst qualities. When hurt turns to revenge, frustration turns to bitterness. When you retaliate with anger, contempt, or indifference. Life may knock you down, but it only destroys you if you rise up smaller. Less righteous, less strong, less whole. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You decide whether something weakens or strengthens you. And no one can make that decision for you. Yes, it will hurt, but you can turn pain into direction. Yes, there will be losses, but you can use them as momentum. You can fall and still choose to rise with more clarity, more compassion, more courage. Because in the end, what defines your life is not what happens to you, but who you decide to become because of it." 10. Love your destiny. It is shaping who you need to become. Epictetus said, "Don't wish for things to happen the way you want them to. Will them to happen as they do, and you will find happiness." This is the basis of Stoicism. Centuries later, Nietzsche gave this view a name, amor fati, the love of destiny. But it's important to understand loving your destiny doesn't mean accepting injustice. It doesn't mean accepting a lackluster life. It means realizing that everything that happens can be used to grow, gain strength, and become wiser if you know how to look at it the right way. In other words, it was hard, but it was the path that would shape me. Marcus Aurelius used a striking comparison. Anything thrown into the fire makes it grow. Problems, losses, criticism, delays, frustrations. Everything can become a flame. Everything can transform into light. Everything can become part of your greatness. Amor fati is stopping fighting reality. It's stopping wishing the past had been different. It's stopping running from the pain that carves your soul. It's understanding that what hurt also made you stronger. That what seemed like the end was actually just the beginning of a stronger version of yourself. It's transforming each scar into part of your work. It's looking back and saying, I didn't just accept this. I embraced it. I used it. I grew. This is true freedom, a peace that doesn't depend on what happens outside, but is born within you. It's a happiness that no one can take away, because it comes from your vision, not luck. Loving life as it is, even when it hurts. That's the power of those who live in greatness. 11. Rediscover your light. Anxiety has a cruel way of acting. It grows stronger precisely in the things you can't resolve. You think endlessly. Discuss the same topic with everyone, bite your nails, lose sleep, go over the details 1,000 times, and in the end, nothing really changes. What changes is your energy, which drains, and your light, which begins to dim. The Stoics always taught a simple lesson. Some things are within your control, others are not, and your peace of mind depends on learning, every day, to differentiate one from the other. So stop for a moment, take a deep breath and ask yourself, what is truly in my control right now? You don't decide whether someone will like you. You can't control their moods, delays, criticism, or unexpected events. You can't change the past, nor can you control what others think of you. But there is one thing that is yours, your response. You can choose your attitude. You can choose what to think about and where to focus your attention. Getting stuck on what can't be changed doesn't solve anything. It just leaves you stuck in the face of the problem. Anxiety grows precisely where your action stops. But when you turn your attention to what you can still do, even if it seems small, you find your strength again. You regain your footing, you find your way again. Epictetus said, "It is not what happens that hurts us, but the opinion we form about what happens." This opinion can become the poison that imprisons you or the medicine that frees you. So swap criticism for focus, swap despair for action, swap drama for discipline, and every time you notice your mind spinning in circles, say firmly, I can't control that, but I can, and that's what I'm going to do. It's at this point that anxiety loses its grip and your light shines again. Because true freedom begins when you stop wasting your energy fighting the wind and start rowing in the direction that's still within your reach. 12. Treat yourself with kindness. There is a story about Cleanthes, one of the ancient masters of Stoicism. One day, walking through the streets of Athens, he came across a man talking to himself, angry, cursing himself and saying things like, "You fool, how could you mess up again?" It was that kind of self-talk we've all had, that harsh voice that appears when we fail, are disappointed or put too much pressure on ourselves, a voice that doesn't help, only hurts. Cleanthes then approached, put his hand on the man's shoulder and said calmly, "Hey, I just want you to know you're not talking to a bad person." These words are like a hug, an important warning. The next time your mind starts to punish you, when you call yourself weak or defeated, stop for a moment, take a deep breath and remember, you're talking to yourself and you're not bad. You're someone who's trying, who's learning, who's fallen and gotten up more times than many people realize. You don't have to destroy yourself to change. True transformation comes from clarity, responsibility, and compassion. Be firm with your habits, but care for your soul with kindness. Demanding without affection is just another way to hurt yourself internally. And there's already too much pressure in the world out there. Don't add another one to yourself. Be your own partner, be your own best friend. Because even the most resilient Stoic is still human. 13. Spend less energy complaining and more doing. Have you ever noticed how creative your mind is, but sometimes it uses that creativity to hurt you? You imagine conversations that never happened, imagine criticisms no one said. You create disaster scenarios, Betrayals, failures, humiliations, all in detail as if it were a horror movie script. Ultimately, you're using the most powerful mind in existence against yourself. Epictetus said, "Our mind is a powerful tool." The question is, how are you using this tool? The truth is, anxiety is often just imagination misused. You almost never imagine that things will work out, that you'll be well received, that everything will flow smoothly. You always imagine the worst. But what if you put that same energy into creating, into visualizing courage, clarity, strength, into building what you desire instead of running away from what you fear? The mind is fertile, and you decide whether it will be a breeding ground or a battlefield. So the next time your mind starts to conjure up tragedies, stop, breathe, and direct your attention to something useful, concrete, and positive. Think of solutions, actions, and real possibilities. Your mind can be your best ally, but it will only happen when you stop using it as a weapon against yourself. In the end, the energy is the same. The difference lies in where you choose to place it, in fear or in construction. 14. When you are prepared, nothing can catch you by surprise. An unexpected blow always hurts more. Seneca said, "A blow foreseen hurts less." That's why the Stoics trained their minds to imagine what could go wrong, not out of pessimism, but out of wisdom. This training was called premeditation of evil, or premeditation of evil, an exercise in which one courageously imagines things that could spiral out of control, not to live in fear, but to avoid being destroyed by surprise. Think of a sailor who has only sailed on calm seas. When a storm arrives, he panics. The sailor who trained in strong winds, studied the waves and prepared the boat for the worst, faces the storm with fortitude. The same goes for the mind. Those who believe everything will always work out may seem hopeful, but they're fragile. All it takes is bad news, a problem at work, an unexpected illness, and everything collapses. Because you've never practiced what if. But there's another side. Seneca also said that suffering before one's time is suffering twice. In other words, this training isn't meant to create paranoia, but to strengthen clarity. It's not about living in constant alert, but about learning to remain calm amidst chaos. Napoleon asked his generals to practice a simple yet powerful practice. 3 times a day, they were to ask themselves, what if the enemy came this way? What if the attack were now? Not out of fear, but out of strategy, because those who think beforehand can act with composure. This is the secret. You don't control the future, but you can prepare for it within yourself. This silent preparation changes everything. You stop being a hostage to the unexpected and become master of your response. Imagine tomorrow you lose a contract, or someone disappoints you, or you have to cancel a trip. You can despair, or you can take a deep breath and say, I've already considered this opportunity. What can I do now? Anticipating isn't about living in fear. It's about becoming stronger than fear. It's about exchanging anxiety for preparation, panic for planning, and desperation for direction. When you train your mind for the unexpected stops being a monster and becomes just another curve in the road. And your peace no longer depends on the perfect path, but on your ability to keep moving forward, even when everything changes. 15. Stop caring so much about what others think. Are you tired of trying to please everyone? Worried about judgments, likes, silences, and constantly changing opinions? Marcus Aurelius said, ambition is tying your happiness to what others do, say, or think. Sanity is tying it to your own actions. And that changes everything, because you can be fair, honest, and creative and still be criticized, ignored, or misunderstood. You can give your best and still not please, because the other person's reaction is not up to you. What you control is your intention, and that's what keeps your peace. But when you need others' approval to feel good, you surrender your freedom. It's like walking on an invisible leash, waiting for applause, waiting for permission, waiting for the green light. Being recognized is good, but relying on it to feel valuable is dangerous. All it takes is a dirty look, a pointed criticism, or a silence, and your confidence can vanish. Think of an artist who stops creating for fear of judgment. Someone who hides their ideas for fear of not being liked. Someone who changes their essence just to fit into places that shouldn't even be their home. Living for acceptance is the fastest way to lose yourself. Freedom begins when you trade the need for approval for self-truth. True strength comes when you ask yourself, have I been true to my values? Have I done my best? Have I been fair to myself and others? If the answer is yes, you've won, even if no one notices. You don't need to explain yourself to deserve respect. You don't need anyone's permission to move forward. The more you align with who you truly are, the less you bow to what's expected of you. Stop living to fit in. Start living to grow. Those who try to fit in disappear. Those who have the courage to be true even in silence leave a mark that the world feels. You may have 1,000 reasons to feel lost, but the sun still rises, the wind still blows, and the light still reaches you. You just need to stop hiding behind what others think. You just need to dare to be who you are. Marcus Aurelius said, "What does not transmit light creates its own darkness. So choose to be light. Let it shine, because this decision, silent and firm, transforms everything within you. Don't let the noise of the world dim your shine. Live intensely, do your best, and every day dedicate yourself to growing, morally, emotionally, financially, and physically, to live your best life."